What's up, my beautiful people? Welcome back to another episode of the See It Through My Eyes channel. I'm your host, Richie, and other guys. So, today's chat. All right, calm down. Ian, Jesus, say hi.
Hi.
What?
Terrific. So, today we're going to be reacting to another video. The video itself is called Real Life Superheroes That Became Criminals by the channel Wavy Net Surfer. Yeah. Been subscribed to the channel. Go check him out. Real cool dude. And
There's
check
no
out
wavy
the video.
lays, by the way.
We're only going to be reacting to the first two cases, the first 28 minutes, so make sure to check out the entirety of the video. Show them some love, and speaking of showing some love, show us some love. Yeah, give us a thumb, give us give us some hype. I hear that's a new feature. I'm not sure what it does, but give us some hype. And yeah, make sure to share our video and comment what you guys think of this video. And if you got any suggestions that you would like us to react to, make sure to help.
Sounds so 90s.
Who?
Give us some hype.
No, that's a feature, right, Jesus?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, see?
It sounds so 90s.
Today we'll be examining when superhero obsessions go a bit too far. Believe it or not, every day people dress up as fictional superheroes in the real world, and some even attempt to stop criminal activity and engage in vigilante justice while wearing eccentric costumes. However, in the effort of doing this, some real-life heroes have found themselves behind bars for crossing law enforcement. And others would even take a darker path, becoming villains and committing heinous crimes. Today, we'll be looking at various cases of real-life superheroes who have committed crimes.
Will you be involved in a negative way and basically allow this to happen, which makes you partly responsible, or will you be involved in a positive way and take a stand and say enough is enough, and you're going to put an end to it?
Batman is without a doubt one of the most beloved and revered superheroes of all time, being the subject of numerous video games, comics, and movies. He's also unique from many of his other fictional peers because he has no superpowers, relying solely on a variety of gadgets alongside his own fighting skills. So it's perhaps unsurprising that some overly enthusiastic fans have attempted to mimic this cowled crusader in real life, thinking that they could emulate his heroic antics. This brings us to the case of Mark Wayne Williams, a man who lived in the small town of Harbor Springs, Michigan. In May of 2011, a local news outlet reported that Williams, clad in full Batman attire, had the police called on him after observers noted him hanging off of the side of a building in the nearby town of Petoskey. According to law enforcement officials, the man was carrying heavy-duty weaponry such as a baton and other worrying melee items. While it wasn't immediately obvious what he planned on doing that night, the fact that he was dressed in a superhero costume led observers to connect the dots and correctly assumed that he was attempting to dole out his own brand of vigilante justice, I guess. He was arrested and charged with trespassing, causing a disturbance, and carrying concealed weaponry, all of which were incredibly serious charges that could land him in quite a bit of trouble. In response to the accusations against him, he was reported as stating, quote, "I realize this is a serious offense. I honestly had no idea that the items I was holding were illegal. I did not intend to harm anyone with these items. I swear that." Bizarrely, this wasn't even the first time he had done something like this, as it had been found that Williams previously masqueraded as a totally different hero, a supernatural avian-themed crime fighter called the Crow. His exploits as this fictional bird taking place years prior. The article ends off by claiming Williams was being held on a $20,000 bond. He later pleaded guilty to obstructing an officer and was given half a year of probation. A seemingly great deal, all things considered. Now, as this story began spreading around, people started referring to him as the Petoskey Batman, and the nickname would stick. While he hadn't hurt anyone or caused any major damage, the idea of a grown man running around town in a Batman suit loaded with weapons was something the local government was not all too fond of. And that being said, one of the major stipulations of Williams' probation was that he was banned from wearing the costume until it was over. This seemed to dampen the spirit of the once passionate vigilante, with it later being reported that he was selling his iconic suit on eBay and quitting the superhero business altogether, with it later being sold for around $152. While at the time this was seemingly an open and shut case involving a Batman-obsessed, overzealous citizen trying to keep the city safe, it was really only the beginning of the Petoskey Batman story. Fast forward to late September of 2012, and Williams once again decided to take up the superhero mantle, this time being accompanied by his girlfriend, who was also dressed up in a Batgirl costume. This pair would scour the streets looking for trouble, acting as a sort of glorified neighborhood watch, keeping an eye on the local community. One day, the pair stumbled across what they assumed to be a crime scene and launched their own investigation into what was going on, calling the police to inform them of what was happening soon after. Now, unbeknownst to either of them, authorities were already combing the area in an attempt to find a suspect that had been involved in a hit-and-run incident earlier that day. And once they discovered the two were already investigating the scene, they attempted to get Mark to leave, which he allegedly refused to do. After becoming incredibly frustrated, they arrested him on the grounds that he was obstructing their efforts. According to later reports, the police claimed that his involvement had hurt their search, with them saying that Mark had prevented their trained canines from catching on to the perpetrator's scent. The animosity that police had towards Mark was apparent, and Mark would give his side of things in an interview on the news.
He's very rude to me. He was telling me how, people are scared of me and, they don't want me out there, and how I'm 33 years old and I need to just give this up and whatever. And, like I said, it seems like it was more about who I am than what I was, doing here.
Whether or not he truly had interfered with their investigation is up for debate, but it was obvious that the local police were sick of Mark's repeated offenses, and they decided to throw the book at him in an attempt to get him to stop once and for all. Ironically, the buzz surrounding this case launched the Petoskey Batman story into the mainstream news once again, with even more people becoming aware of his actions more than ever before. While there were certainly a fair amount of people that were mocking Williams from afar, there were also those who believed he was simply trying to set a positive example, believing his arrest was totally unjustified. One of the most vocal supporters of Williams and his plight was another real-life superhero named Bee Sting, who also operated in the state of Michigan. In an interview with the news outlet ML Live, Bee Sting, whose real name was Adam Besso, stated, quote, "I really think this is an issue of they just don't want him wearing the costume. They don't want his participation. They don't value the fact that he's a citizen and has a right to observe and report something that's going on." The article also reveals that Mark was a member of the Michigan Protectors, a real-life superhero group that operated around the state. Looking back at archives of their website, you can see numerous other members who had their own unique backgrounds and costumes, with the site claiming that their goal was to, quote, inspire others to be more active in their communities. They also, interestingly, outright rejected the label of vigilante, despite the admittedly theatric personas and activity that they had crafted and participated in. The aforementioned hero, Bee Sting, has his own controversial history, previously being arrested after discharging a gun during a scuffle with another man after a dispute broke out between the two. Mark, or the Petoskey Batman, had reportedly helped raise money for Bee Sting's family during this difficult period, which explains Bee Sting's loyalty to the Petoskey Dark Knight. Now, as expected, Mark flatly denied the allegations that were being made against him by the police, and he would plead not guilty. The Petoskey Batman, this real-life Batman, he's having similar issues with the police, just like the actual Batman was. I guess you could say he's really dedicated to the bit here. In November of that same year, True TV reached out to Williams and extensively interviewed him, asking numerous questions surrounding his persona and conflict with the law. Telling his side of events, he claimed that he had been cooperative with the authorities the entire time and was never even told the reason as to why he was being arrested, only learning this reason later on. In response to the claims that he interfered with the canine units, he stated that they didn't even show up to the scene of the crime until 45 minutes later, when he had already been placed into custody. This paints quite a different picture regarding the ordeal. But at this point, it devolved into a situation where both sides simply refused to budge or admit wrongdoing. However, one very important question had been left unanswered. Why exactly did he feel the need to do all of this in the first place? Why couldn't he achieve his goals by acting as a normal citizen instead of dressing up like Batman? After being questioned as to why he felt the suit was necessary for his cause, Williams would respond by saying this. Quote, "If I was out there doing it in jeans and a t-shirt, nobody would really pay attention. The whole point of me being out there doing this is to get people's attention and to get them to realize that it's up to everybody to take care of the community and make it better. The uniform gives me a chance to explain what I'm doing out here." While the news had been reporting on his escapades for quite a while at this point, this was one of the first opportunities for people to truly understand his motivations. While from an outside perspective, it may seem like Mark was an irresponsible nuisance who believed he could do a better job than police, it seems that he simply wanted to make a positive difference in his community. Somehow, despite authorities clearly wanting to severely punish him, the Petoskey Crusader would end up escaping with relatively few major legal repercussions. In December, it was reported that the prosecution would be dropping the charges against him if he agreed to plead guilty to a lesser trespassing charge. While one might expect this entire incident to deter Mark from ever donning his costume again, he made it abundantly clear that he would continue to carry out his solemn duty regardless. On April 28th of 2013, Williams would once again return to the limelight, this time posting a YouTube video of himself reaffirming his mission as well as directly responding to criticism regarding his methods.
We often get asked questions about, like, what's wrong with us and why can't we just, become police or EMTs and help people that way? Well, let me answer those questions. One, there's nothing wrong with us. We saw a problem in our community, we go out, we try to help. We try to make a difference. The people that have something wrong with them are the people that sit idly by and watch things go to hell and don't do anything about it. The people that know that their neighbor down the hall is getting abused and say nothing. The people that know that there's a meth lab down the road and do nothing. They say, oh, I don't want to get involved. Well, let me tell you something. If you know about it, you're already involved. The only question is how. Will you be involved in a negative way and basically allow this to happen, which makes you partly responsible, or will you be involved in a positive way and take a stand and say enough is enough, and you're going to put an end to it?
He would also make a return to the local news cycle, appearing in an interview where he recounted many of his prior controversies and to promote his social media pages. When asked about his relationship with the police now that the dust had settled, Williams had this to say.
What's your relationship now with local police?
The city police, I don't have much interaction with the state or the county.
Okay.
But I see the city police quite a bit because I'm usually within the city limits, and I have a great relationship with them, If they need help, keeping their eyes out or whatever, there have been a few times they've asked me to keep my eyes open, and if I see something, I call and report it, so.
Okay, that's good to hear, though, because I know it was a little rough for a while. But,
oh, yeah.
You have a brand new YouTube channel. What do you want to get? What's your message to everyone with this YouTube channel?
Basically, the YouTube channel is just another way to reach people and to get my message out there. There's a lot more you can convey, with a video and actually being able to speak instead of just writing or typing on the internet there. So I'm hoping I'll also be able to bring light to subjects that I'm working on or looking into.
While he would go on to state he hoped to use his YouTube channel as a platform to spread his message, it seems that he would abandon this idea, with only one video ever being posted to it. This unfortunately wouldn't be the end of the hardships faced by the masked Michigan vigilante. As stated earlier, the hero Bee Sting was one of Williams' ardent defenders during his difficult legal proceedings. In 2014, however, it was reported that the two had a falling out over the leadership of the Michigan Protectors. Sadly, it seems that this argument between the two was so intense that it actually led to the disbandment of the group altogether, with the Petoskey Batman once again standing up against crime all alone like the actual Batman does in Gotham. In situations like these, the social media pages of those involved become inactive or are deleted and lost to time. But interestingly enough, the Petoskey Batman still posts on Facebook semi-regularly to this day. While it's unclear if he continues his patrols in the same way that he did over a decade ago, it appears that he hasn't lost his enthusiasm for promoting positive activism, with his story becoming yet another fascinating footnote in internet history.
So, reactions to that first case, y'all.
He was 33 in the first.
What are you trying to
he showed.
say, Jesus? Is something wrong with being 33?
No, it's just at that age, should be thinking about other things in life, getting a job or something,
Oh, sorry, I was supposed to hit him.
He's in a Batman costume pretending to be a hero, and it's like, dude.
See, I'm a little conflicted. I'm gonna go right in front of you, because I'm that type of guy. I feel a little conflicted. I'm not gonna lie, because a part of me when I first when I first heard the story, when I first heard the story, I felt for the guy because I think at some point we all have seen, like, our, whether it's our own communities, our cities, or the world, like how just up it is, and we all want to see changes happen in our world, especially when there's innocent people being harmed by it. So I can kind of understand that whole vigilante, taking up arms and fighting for justice and everything, but where it just it all kind of falls apart for me is where it kind of seems a little bit more like we were just looking for attention for ourselves, where we wanted that notoriety of, like, look, we're the vigilante, we're cosplaying superheroes over here. I said this off the air, how you go from the Crow to Batman to, well, no, I think those were the only two. Like, pick one superhero, sir. But I don't know. I think it was someone who maybe he did have good intentions. Like what he was saying, that, he wanted to look out for his community and help the police out. Now, I don't know. It sounds like both sides in this situation were being asses. Like, I don't know. We weren't there, so we can't really comment whether each side which side was telling the truth. But it sounds like both sides were just trying to, like, get one up on the other, and just being annoying to each other. Like, him knowing that the cops are trying to, like, do their investigation or whatever, and kind of just being like, hey, I'm gonna help you, we don't need you, but I want to help, we don't need you. And then the others where it's just like, we're making a big fuss over nothing. Like, just ignore the and just do your job. There's people out there who should be getting chased after, and you guys put in all this attention too, not people who don't have nothing better else to do than to dress up as superheroes and quote unquote go fight crime. Ian?
I have my own thing where, like, I agree. Like, there's nothing wrong with wanting to help your community, and there's nothing wrong with, like, wanting what's best and stuff. But I was taught on that whole there's a right and a wrong way to do everything, and there's no denying. Like, I think he was getting an attention booster from the whole dressing like Batman stuff. I mean, first and foremost, just if I'm going to be petty with it, it's just Batman's already created character. Like, if he was going to be a superhero, he should have tried to do something more
Like his
original.
Beasting.
Yeah, at least it's at least it's an original composition. It's not on the lens of, like, Wasp from Marvel, and it's also nothing like Falcon. It's Bee Sting. So I can at least, on the pettiness, give it that. Whereas, like, he wasn't trying to be original. He was trying to take something that already existed.
Wait. What's a bat? Like the
What?
the type of animal? What is it? Marsupial? What is it?
Bat?
Marsupial.
Marsupial. He could be Marsupial Man instead of being Batman.
Man? Oh my god.
Wait, bats aren't marsupials.
What are they?
I know for sure they're not marsupials.
Then what are they? God damn it, is my question.
Oh, but anyway,
Hey, this is important. We're trying to give a new name to Batman over there.
well, because to be honest, he's lucky that in like beating, like, honestly try to.
They got bigger problems.
But but it's like that was my biggest thing with it, and I agree. Like, the cops, like, trying to put this much focus around it was like, we do got some guy who's just a little bit too crazy. He does want to help. He's just taking an interesting route with taking it, putting all this pressure on him and stuff. Because I know the reason why is because if you just let vigilanteism, like, just slide, of course it's going to be duplicators that want to try to do that. And while it works in comics and it works in the movies, that's totally fine, because in there's leg room for error, and there's leg room for, like, if you get killed you can come back. But in the real practicality, you're playing on one life, and if that gets snuffed out, then it's really that. Like, I gotta be honest, I was getting vibes of the film The Incredibles. I was getting vibes of The Incredible from like what happened with Incrediboy, where you had this kid who was just so crazed about Mr. Incredible that he was like going in these situations where the cops and Mr. Incredible was actually doing stuff, and he's like, let me help, and then he messes things up in the end.
Oh, he eventually became Syndrome.
And then he becomes
Yeah.
he becomes evil simply out of the place of, well, you wasn't supposed to be there in the first place. So it's just everybody should want to have a desire to help their community, but my thing is just this: there's a right and a wrong way to go about everything.
If you've ever done research into the topic of real-life superheroes in the past, there's a high likelihood that you've stumbled across the story of Benjamin Fodor, known primarily by his superhero alter ego, Phoenix Jones. For a brief time, he was revered as a beacon of hope within the confines of his own city, only to eventually ruin his reputation and become a prime example of how fame and influence can corrupt morals and cloud judgment. But before we can truly understand how Phoenix became such a polarizing figure, we must look at his background and origin. Benjamin was born on May 25, 1988, and had a rough upbringing. He would go on to become an amateur fighter, studying mixed martial arts, and actually managed to gain somewhat of a name for himself within the community alongside his adoptive brother, Carlos Fodor. As he became older, his passion for assisting those in need became stronger, leading him to become a teacher for autistic students. But it wouldn't be long until his desire to help his fellow citizens grew into a desire for something greater, something larger than life, if you will. Phoenix first began rising to prominence as a superhero thanks to his association with a larger group of like-minded individuals called the Rain City Superhero Movement. Operating in the city of Seattle, Washington, all 8 of the members had their own unique personas and identities, all wanting to aid law enforcement in any way they could and potentially even prevent crimes from occurring. Jones himself stated in a 2010 interview with the Daily Beast that one of the main motivators for him starting his crime-fighting career was an incident involving his car being broken into. After going to investigate his broken window, his young son allegedly cut himself on accident. After this incident, his father decided he would try to do something to curb the rampant crime occurring in his city. Even from the very beginning, police and the press alike expressed a great deal of hesitancy towards their mission, believing that the group may become more of a liability and hindrance than anything else.
Police are perplexed, worried the group will turn into vigilantes, and skeptical that they've ever actually stopped any crime.
Our concern is if it goes badly, then we end up getting called anyway, and we may have additional victims.
To be clear, Phoenix had been engaging in the superhero business for a while at this point, but had largely gone unnoticed with very little press coverage being done on him. However, once news outlets began to dig deeper into this story, they realized the potential and began to scrutinize the self-proclaimed crime fighter closer. His suit looked like something straight out of a movie, featuring a bulletproof vest as well as various other heavy-duty equipment, all designed to prevent himself from getting seriously injured. Police were aware of his identity at this time, but had not yet revealed it to the public, possibly in an effort to prevent Jones from becoming a target for criminals and putting him in harm's way, or perhaps they didn't want to encourage his activity. The strangeness of his actions, as well as his willingness to talk to the press, soon made him a rising star, with his escapades being documented by the mainstream news outlets. In January of 2011, it was reported that Jones had stopped a carjacking, intervening and chasing off the would-be thieves before police had a chance to arrive.
And you just start sticking it down inside between the window here and the rubber strip.
Dan was calling 911, but help flew in before he finished dialing.
From the right, this guy comes dashing in, just wearing this skin-tight rubber black and golden suit, and starts chasing him away.
This was a clear turning point, as he had actually proven that he could do good work that benefited those around him. Positive press such as this would continue to be a common theme with Phoenix Jones, and he would accumulate a fan base of folks who liked and respected him for actually taking a step and, doing some good in his community, doing what he thought was right. Reports such as this all boosted his reputation, with Jones becoming a sensation, and he was often recognized by people on the street who were familiar with his antics. However, there were numerous concerns from critics as well. While most of them acknowledged that they appreciated the sentiment behind what he was doing, many believe that intervening in dangerous situations should be left up to law enforcement and not private citizens. Many of his adventures were also caught on camera due to the involvement of self-proclaimed filmmaker Ryan McNamee, who documented many of the real-life superhero escapades, uploading many of these clips onto social media. To this day, numerous of these videos remain on YouTube, providing some interesting insight into the early days of Phoenix Jones. However, not everyone approved of his methods. While it's to be expected that there's going to be a fair amount of skeptics in the press, he was extremely controversial even within the community that he was a part of. An article published by the Wall Street Journal in February of 2012 revealed that other heroes such as Night Owl and Zeta-Man disapproved of Phoenix's tendency to involve himself in dangerous situations. They were part of a completely different organization called the Real Life Superhero Group, being one of the rival superhero's top critics throughout his rapid rise to fame, with Night Owl himself stating, quote, "Whether intentionally or not, he's representing the superhero community now, and that makes some people nervous." The two groups reportedly attempted to bridge the divide by patrolling together, but this only ended with relations between them becoming worse, with Night Owl's superhero group completely distancing themselves from the Rain City superhero movement. All in all, it was clear that they were unimpressed by the Rising Star's philosophy, believing him to be a bad representative of the cause, as their work was more centered around charitable action as opposed to physically mimicking their fictional counterparts and, like intervening on crimes in a vigilante type way. Towards the end of 2011, it would seem that the suspicions of his critics would be proven correct after a particularly controversial incident took place. As the story goes, a group of individuals were dancing in the street in the early hours of the morning, and were shocked after a masked individual approached and began pepper spraying them for seemingly no reason. This obviously angered them a great deal, with the situation rapidly escalating.
Phoenix Jones, the city's most prolific superhero, complete with a full-body costume, running to help others. Jones says he thought it was a fight and tried to break it up. The whole scene is being captured by Ryan McNamee, a documentary videographer.
Let's see, he did use spray, but only when things were out of control.
McNamee says the crowd Jones thought he was helping turned on him.
Watch out, watch out, watch out, watch out, watch out.
And it's Jones's use of pepper spray that police say led to his arrest for assault.
The mysterious man who approached them was none other than Phoenix Jones, and he faced a significant amount of backlash for his actions here. He would go on to defend himself by claiming the individuals involved had actually been fighting, and he only had been trying to break them up. However, Jones's account of events completely contradicted what the victims had to say. Police also took this opportunity to reaffirm their initial fears about Jones and his style.
In the police report about the incident, the officer wrote that Jones has had a history of injecting himself in these incidents. Recently, there have been increased reports of citizens being pepper sprayed by Jones and his group, adding that Jones has been advised to observe and report incidents to 911. He continues to try to resolve things on his own.
While he had called 911 after the alleged fight had been broken up, many still believe that it was irresponsible for him to insert himself in a dangerous situation, especially using any sort of weaponry. As a result of the conflict, the now 23-year-old man was arrested and charged with assault, but he was released from jail after posting bail. In the ensuing legal battle, the true identity of Phoenix Jones was revealed to the public, with many being shocked when they found out who he actually was.
Meet Phoenix Jones, self-styled superhero and self-proclaimed defender of Seattle. The comic book vigilante who has ended up on the wrong side of the law after being accused of assault dramatically unmasked himself outside one of the city's courts on Thursday, revealing the man behind the mask, Benjamin Fodor.
I'm Phoenix Jones. I'm also Ben Fodor. I also protect the city. I also am a father. I also am a brother.
It was also soon reported that he would unfortunately lose his job as a teacher. While some believe that this was unjustified, it was perhaps inevitable. One could also make the argument that this all was for the best. If he was consistently involving himself in danger, he could also inadvertently lead danger to the children that he was trying to teach. He'd piss off a villain and they come for your class. This incident was a good indication of what was to come for the Crime Stopper, with this only being the start of his many controversies. One thing that's important to note is that throughout his entire career, Jones had been supported by his romantic partner, Purple Rain. She was another hero who was a member of the Rain City superhero movement. Her primary goal was to promote awareness surrounding domestic abuse, as she was a victim of it herself, even running her own nonprofit organization that helped spread the message of this further. However, things in their relationship didn't seem to be going well, as she would post a message to Facebook on November 13th of 2013, claiming that the two had separated. I think it's time to make a public statement announcing that Phoenix Jones and I are no longer together, and I will not be working together with him on any future projects. I have always conducted myself in a professional and respectable manner and do not wish to share the details of our separation. I wish Phoenix and the RCSM the best of luck in their future endeavors. This would not be the end of Phoenix's struggle to maintain positive relations with his peers. In 2014, it was reported by news outlets that the Rain City superhero movement, the group that Phoenix had been the leader of and spearheaded for years, was officially breaking up. Jones himself accused many of the heroes under him of not following proper procedure, claiming that many of them even carried illegal weaponry. Something that was obviously a problem for a group of individuals trying to operate within the confines of the law. However, former members such as Shockwave and El Caballero accused Jones of stealing their property and being a generally poor leader who had mishandled his role in the group, indicating that there were some other serious problems going on behind the scenes. Though these situations certainly didn't help, this would be far from the event that truly destroyed his reputation, at least in scale of, well, not being very superhero-like. He regained quite a bit of recognition after reigniting his passion for martial arts in 2015, officially signing on the World Series of Fighting and performing under a superhero name, as opposed to Benjamin Fodor. Despite this, the general coverage and fanfare surrounding his initial burst onto the scene had greatly died down, and outside of a few miscellaneous articles and reports documenting him, Phoenix was talked about much less. It wouldn't truly be until 2019, until it was officially confirmed by Benjamin during an interview with the NW Nerd podcast that he was retiring Phoenix Jones for good. When asked about his reasoning for doing so, he would state, quote, "In the end, there's not a balance. It doesn't make sense. I've seen it on the streets. I've seen what people do to each other, and I live with it every day. Every day, I live with horrible, horrible things. And I think to myself, I've made a difference. But I didn't make a difference. It didn't make a difference." While his retirement came as no surprise to onlookers, one thing nobody expected was for Fodor to be exposed as the very thing he had fought against for years. Apparently, he had been known to deal drugs by various individuals, something that was baffling considering his very well-known identity as a crime fighter who had consistently rallied and spoke against drug-related crimes in the past. Police would arrest Benjamin Fodor on drug charges after the man allegedly sold drugs to an undercover agent. He was of course arrested and charged with this being a definitive nail in the coffin for his already tainted reputation. While he did accomplish some good within his community for a brief time, it's clear that despite his best efforts, Phoenix Jones has become something of a cautionary tale in the online community and the superhero community at large. His innumerable controversies, as well as the continuous stream of criticism being levied towards him and his methods, has left an undeniable stain on Phoenix Jones's legacy. Today, he still maintains a very low-key internet presence and has seemingly backed away from his once brazen persona, preferring to simply promote goodwill as opposed to taking the law into his own hands.
All right, so reaction to this second story, because I want to.
I have heard of him like going back to like 2016.
My question.
2016, before the drug charges, right?
You knew him?
No, it was just on a YouTube video.
Did you take photos of him for the Daily Bugle?
No, they hung out stupid.
Yeah.
Jesus was a toaster boy.
Huh?
He was part of the RCL universe.
And I kind of, back then, even I thought it was kind of ridiculous. But,
wow.
You know, people,
harsh. Such
people
a critic.
People are going to do whatever they're going to do because, you know, they think they're doing the right thing, which, fair, I guess.
All right. Ian?
What? Ow!
Any thoughts?
Keep it on. RCM is going to throw you over too. You're
Jokes.
so out. Turn in your cap, your cape, and your mask.
That's fine by me. I work alone.
Easy.
But that, I mean, it's the same thing with literally just the first one, where it's just, I get it. I think people in the inside do have that passion to help. They do want, like, there's those who really do want to help and stuff. Now, I got to be honest, I just don't know why they go to the extreme form of superheroes, because aside from the fact that they're not real, and they're not real for good reasons, because like literally like we was joking through this whole thing about the man, but it's true though. It's just it's a job that you're not going to get rewarded for. And then, I mean, I'm just going to call it sounds like we just rushed in on situations without first kind of assessing what's actually going on. Because the whole, I'm just going to pepper spray everybody, and out there they were just dancing or whatnot, and you just perceive them as a threat. I think if we assess that a little bit more, then maybe that wouldn't have happened. But that's always been the superhero syndrome that sometimes people go through, where they're always just like, I got to take action. I got to take action, when it's like, baby, let's just think. Let's use common sense.
Hey, maybe those dance moves were dangerous, all right?
Well, you know, we just kind of jumped in and then just, all right, nobody moved. And then just.
I like that he was trying to help the people. How?
By hurting the people.
You pepper spray them.
Like, you're doing the very thing that, you know, heroes are not supposed to do. Like, you know.
Yeah, clearly you never seen a movie.
Clearly he hasn't played a video game. Like, if you kill a civilian, then you got to start over. So.
Man, that's the worst part.
So it's like, you know, I just, again, like I say, leave it to the comics.
Superhero.
Like I say, leave it to the comics. Leave it to, like, on the angle of superhero. There is nothing wrong with, if you have the ability and the power, and like within reason, if you have the ability to kind of do something and take action, and like, you know, it's something that in the job they call the bystander effect, where it's like sometimes people, they see something going on, and the main thought is, oh, the person next to me, they'll do something, and then everybody has that main thought, and in the end nothing happens, and then whatever goes down goes down. And the bystander effect is basically like intervention is supposed to teach people, like, if it's safe enough, if you calculated the risk, if you want to intervene, then you can. But there's so many ways: delegating, direct, distract, or even if things happen and then you check up on the victim in the aftermath and stuff. But it doesn't require you to have to put on costumes and wear bulletproof vests and skin tight things. Like, I gotta call it. I think that's just the attention factor. I'm just gonna be honest.
So the question I got for you guys to wrap up this episode. So now I know you said you're against being a vigilante, Ian. But if we were to remove the ridiculousness of the superhero stuff and costume wearing and, you know, all the comic book shit, that I think people really truly believe in it, right? And it's okay if you keep it to your imagination, or I don't know, you know, draw or write your own comic books or whatever, like me. But my question to you guys, in the sense of like vigilantism, or, you know, putting your life, taking the risk, putting yourself at risk to help others, whether it's physically, you know, if you see like there's a mugging happening or something, right, and you go and you put yourself at risk to protect others, or like what some of the guys was doing in some cases, where they were seeing what was going on and then like reporting that information over to the cops. Would you guys agree that with that type of vigilantism? Would you guys agree with when some people feel the need, like, you know, to protect somebody, I need to break the law? What do you guys think?
In those cases, like I just said, when it like comes down to like what is known as the like bystander effect, and like, you know, knowing the proper route of intervention. And a lot of that, like you said, you got to really assess these situations very carefully. You know, you got to assume, like, you got to take those chances, because if you don't assess this right, this could honestly make things worse, like for yourself. And then not to mention, even when like, we got taught about it, they told us like, do not put yourself in a situation that you is a bit over, like, above your weight limit. Because if you're trying to rush in and help somebody else, but then you're not able to help them or yourself, now there's just essentially another victim. And we don't want that. So it's just about, taking the proper steps on doing it now. And I'm going to be honest, sometimes means you got to step outside of like, the line of the law. But, you know, I think there's room for that depending on how you go like approaching it. And then of course, I'm one of those that try to inspect things from the inside out, where I'm just where what is the intent here? Because if you got the real intent to do that and you've assessed it, and if that I can't control what a person does, but it's just we got to make sure that we're actually staying tuned to what's going on, and like this like what the risks are, and then if I'm actually going to be able to do something that's going to make a difference or whatnot. And then also be responsible for that choice. Because if it's true, if you step out, you break the law comes in, then you're going to have to be held accountable for doing that. And you just explain your case. What comes from it, that's what comes from it. But at least stand but like behind your decision. Like just keep that in mind.
Jesus.
Would we intervene? Like, if we saw something happen? Is that what you're asking?
No, technically about the vigilantism, but sure, you can answer your own question.
What do I think about vigilantism?
Sure.
Honestly, I think it's only wrong because it's like I feel like people are putting their lives in danger when they can be helping their community in different ways. With charities and like in hospitals and stuff like that. And it's like you don't have to put your life like in like danger patrolling out in the streets and stuff. I'm just wondering, like, with one of these cases, like, has anyone ever been like severely hurt from it? Because it's like of course you hear like the stories that we just heard, and it didn't sound like they were too severely hurt from what had happened, other than maybe their own prides and whatnot.
Well, I got one question, Jesus. Like, because here in Chicago, I remember a couple of years ago, and I wouldn't even call him particularly a vigilante, because that's the thing. That's another conversation. But it's just it was some guy that was like dressed up in a superhero outfit. He called himself the Shield, and what he did was when it was like past curfew for the teenagers, and it was a brightly colored costume. But he just kind of like, I think he was like on like the community watch or whatnot.
Yeah.
But yeah, like he would walk around just to make sure the teenagers were inside and stuff. And it like, no real weapon. If anything, it was just like, one of those like, I guess like one of those like old school shields or something like that. And then all he had was just a flashlight, just kind of sweeping the neighborhood or whatnot, just to make sure like I guess like the young folk was like in at curfew. Where would you put that?
You see, I think that we have a weird idea of like vigilante, because it's like, we think, oh, they're gonna be a violent person, like physically doing something about like the crime that we see. And I think that also could be a form of vigilantism, not necessarily like you're against like because keep in mind, right? They're doing this to help their communities, right? But this is specifically to help the community. It's not to deter police. It's not to deter.
That's true, because he wasn't intervening with nothing. Yeah,
It's
like
just making sure that every kid in the community was safe. And with like the cases of like Phoenix Jones and everything else like that, it gets into vigilantism because they're getting in the way of like the police.
and they're not really trained for.
Yeah, no, they're not. They're not really trained to handle situations. I'm sure some people down in the comment section will say, cops aren't trained to handle
Which is
situations
fair.
either.
That's
So,
fair.
it's
That
fair.
is fair.
It's fair.
So to wrap up my thoughts, I think we have to be careful where, you know, like for anybody with the desire to want to help the community and protect the innocent and all that, I think we also need to be mature about it. That what we are obviously influenced by, comic books, superhero movies, and all that. It sounds good, and it's entertainment and everything, but at the end of the day, that's what it is. It's entertainment. And even the life lessons about what it means to be a superhero, even then, it's still entertainment. Like, it's still, for me, I said this about some of the characters, especially like the Purple Rain girl, where it's like, if you guys just want to bring like awareness, if you want to, be advocates, if you want to do something positive for your community and have the community engagement, why not just go the route of volunteer work? There's many different programs, many different organizations that are out there that need volunteers, right? And I get the sense of the ones who said like, "Oh, I wear the suit." I think it was the first one. Like, I wear the suit to bring attention to what I'm doing, and it's like, but people, when they look at you, they're not looking at you like, "Wow, he's
inspiration,
fighting crime."
Yeah, like what is this lunatic doing?
Yeah, it's like,
yeah, like
he's dressed up as Batman.
Dorkfest is like Dorkfest is like in San Diego.
So it's like, guys, again, I think we need to separate this idea of like superheroism. I love superhero movies as much as the next guy, but it doesn't apply completely to like real life. Because even like with the police, it's like you're trying to be this vigilante who's trying to like walk the line of a law-abiding citizen, right? But at the same time, it's like you're committing a bunch of minor crimes, sometimes even bigger crimes, where you're interfering or you're making it harder for like the police and all that. I would understand it because a lot of the time we, including us, we've criticized the police departments or just, around everywhere where there is incompetence, there is corruption, there is neglect, right? But a lot of the time, it's either there's lack of police available, funding sometimes is an issue. Sometimes it's also the police can only do so much if the laws don't permit them. So it's like I kind of understand like they want to fill in where the police isn't able to, but it kind of seemed like they wanted to be part of the police force without going through the process and like the training and everything for the police, and still get that recognition. Because why did we have to stand out? Vigilantism, you don't see Spider-Man out there or Batman or Superman and just showing their face doing interviews. Like, you're supposed to be out there for the cause of helping others.
And to be honest, most of the time, like while they're trying to use the angle of vigilante from those heroes, I'm just superhero enthusiast myself. A lot of
What a
them
nerd.
A lot of them they don't even get that, level of like they're a superhero status from the people that they be doing this on a daily basis anyway. Not Spider-Man, not Batman, heck, not even Superman. There was a point where Trump was like, we don't need this. So I just like, at least just kind of cutting in here is just, at the end of the day, when things really hit the fan, people are going to, by default, most of the time, dial 911. They're not going to contact you personally.
And sign the Batman symbol.
And then that's the other part of this too. And this sometimes that whole I could be a vigilante thing is just like in the comics, these superheroes, they're written to have knowledge of like how to defuse bombs and to do this, and that. In real life, if you don't have this real training, you're gonna screw things up before you even like, even consider thoughts of like, doing anything for the good. It's like you're not gonna just have that knowledge of just like, okay, there's 3 wires, cut the one wire triggers a bomb, the other one speeds up the time, and the other one stops it. You need training for this stuff. In comics that works. And sometimes even in them, it actually kind of doesn't. So maybe we should, like you said, separating entertainment from real reality is important. There are some things you can draw out from these forms of superhero stories and stuff, you know, with great power comes great responsibility being the main one. But it's like, I think there's ways to approach that theme, like you said, without having to like go to the top of like, you know, the Sears Tower and be like, I'm gonna jump off of this and I'm gonna swing through the city. Like, or
What's your cause? To bring awareness to
what not to do when you're on the top of a building? Sure.
Is to wrap up to I mean, you know, not that we're hearing about these cases every day, right? But for anybody who wants to make a difference in their community, you can. Like I said, there's a lot of organizations and programs out there. There's a lot of volunteer work that is needed in the police stations and you know, the police departments and the fire departments.
Making the world a better place starts in your own backyard, guys.
Yeah, yard sales. There you go.
That's not what I'm saying.
You're a menace, Ian. But with that being said, guys, check out the full video. We only did like half of it. Check out the channel. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to our channel. And yeah, we'll be your vigilantes. Make sure to comment in the comment section what's your take on vigilantism and these videos. Well, cases of this video that we
also
reacted
have some
to.
fun with it. What's your guys' favorite vigilante hero? Why not?
No, the name. Because some of these people... Yeah, come up with your own superhero name.
There you go. There you go. Yeah, like do that. Like if you had to be a vigilante, what would you call yourselves?
And what would be your cause?
And your power.
Yeah, your power and your... just go creative in the comments.
With it. You know, who knows? Maybe Marvel might see it.
If Marvel does, they better pay us. But anyways, make sure to like and share this episode. I'm here with Jesus and Ian. I'm Richie. See it through my eyes. Stay safe, stay blessed. God bless. We'll see you guys. Take care. Crazy world out there, y'all. But we all got to do our part. And with great power comes with great responsibility.
And I'm the Batman.
I'm Batman.